Hello friends, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator and part 5 of Boeing 727-200 full flight tutorial video. We are cruising at 29,000 feet and getting close to our top of descent. We will be discussing the descent calculation, what we are going to do to descend properly based on our arrival charts, and we'll prepare the aircraft for descent, arrival and approach. This episode will be descent and arrival, and approach and landing will be in the last episode or last part, which will be part 6 of the video series. Without further ado, let's get into the cockpit and prepare our aircraft for descent and discuss what we are going to do. Welcome back to the flight deck of Boeing 727 once more. We are currently cruising at 29,000 feet. Altitude hold is engaged. We are holding Mach 7.9, Mach 8.8, and cruising nicely, getting close to our top of descent. So, to calculate our top of descent waypoint, we need to bring the tablet. In the flight tab, we have 29,000 feet and a target altitude that can help us decide when we are going to decide and descent and what kind of vertical speed we will need. To determine that, we need to go to the charts and pull our approach chart, which I pre-selected here. Let's zoom in just a little bit. We have a 7,000 restriction at Cardiff over the airport, ADF, and we have 16 and 15,000 hard restrictions at VB and UpCam. So first we are going to descend to 16,000 and then 15 and then 7,000. We will base everything off of this 7,000 number, and then from there we are going to execute our approach. So if you look at the distances, 20.98, 12, so that's 33.3, 43.6. We have 43.9 miles or 44 miles from Wavby to the airport, and we need to descend from 16 to 7,000. From there we have the approach, which we will need to descend down to 2,200 and then do a circle to land approach. We have 8 miles here. So from 7,000 we need to get down to 2,200 in about 8 miles, or we can just go a little bit longer until we are at the correct altitude and turn around and intercept the localizer. That's the plan for the approach. So to calculate our descent, we will base it off of the 2,200 number, because that's where we need to be, and that's what we are going to plug into the calculator given by the clipboard. So if we type in 2,200, this tells us that we here need 84 miles to get down there and 1,700 feet per minute. We'll keep this in mind. We might be changing this to meet the altitude restrictions, and we need to calculate where that 84 miles point is. To do that, I'm gonna pull my navgraph charts here, and we'll take a look at the distances. Okay, so we know until here, Wavby, we have 44 miles. This section, if you look at here, is 10 miles, so that's 54. This section of the flight, if I can select this, is 20 miles, that's 74. This section is 6 miles, that's 80, and 11 miles here, so that's 91. I think at Karno we should start descending, or somewhere between Rizla and Karno. That's the plan, and set our vertical speed to 1,700 to see if we are going to meet those restrictions, 16 and 15,000. So that's our descent planning. kind of roughly done. We also need to go into our INS. Oh, I shouldn't have closed that. We need to go into our INS and take a look at our waypoints that we need to enter, because we only entered 9, if you remember that episode when we planned the flight and entered the waypoints into the INS. So let's do that and enter our missing waypoints, and then we should be ready for arrival and approach, and we don't have to deal with the INS anymore. Okay, let's pull our OFP. Obviously the edits I made are gone because of the difference between the flights. The flight plan became dated and it was removed, so I'm gonna talk about which ones are the ones that we need to enter. So room key is number 1. We need to enter that after 9, so that's number 1. Webby is number 2. Upcam number 3. Akbaz is number 4, and we have cookies number 5, and we will enter the airport Cardiff at number 6. So let's start doing this. Let me just go down to the INS and go to the waypoints. We are currently traveling from 4 to 5, so which means the first 4 is available. So we will go to the waypoints, select number 1 and enter this. North 52176, insert, and then west 2585, insert. So that's number 1, and it will cycle from 9 to 1 and 2, 3, so on. Number 2 is 52076, north 52076, insert, and then west 259.4. Number 3 is 51571, north 51571, insert, and then west 300.2. We cannot enter 4 right now because 4 is being used. As you see, we are traveling from 4 to 5, so we will leave it at that and enter the last 2. Actually no, last 3, 1, 2, 3, once we start traveling from 5 to 6 and so on. So let's drop this now and let's take a look where we are. We are coming to our 5th waypoint, which was Nokin, so which means we need to start our descent. So I'm gonna set the altitude to 7,000. That's where we need to be at the airport. That's the hard restriction. Remove the altitude hold. Arm the altitude again, and I will just bring the nose down to the required 1700 feet per minute descent. Once I do this, I'm gonna reduce the throttles so that we don't overspeed the aircraft, and keep an eye on my speed. So I think I'm gonna hold it right there for now, and then make sure I am at 1700 feet by, maybe this is better, using the dial to set a descent rate. That's good enough for me. We are descending towards our arrival airport, and we can just bring the charts and take a look at where those restrictions are once more, just to remind ourselves. Webby and Upcam. So according to my charts, oh, not charts, actually the flight plan, if it loads. Let's just give it a couple seconds to load. Wave B is number 2, this is number 1 after 9, remember, number 2, and opcam is number 3. So at number 2 we need to be at 16,000, at number 3 we need to be at 15,000. So to help with that, we will just keep the display in the distance time so that it gives us the distance to the next waypoint. We are currently traveling from 7 to 8, so which means we can enter the rest of these. You have seen this, so let's quickly enter the remainder of the waypoints. And finish our GPS or INS programming. So we entered 3. We'll go to the waypoint again, number 4, 51447. Insert 302.2. Oops, west 3022. Insert number 5, 51419. Insert west 304.6. And then finally onto 3456, 51238. Insert west 320.6. That is all the waypoints we needed to enter. So our GPS is now programmed. We are traveling from 8 to 9, and we will wait and see where we are gonna end up at waypoint 2 and 3, because we need to be at 16 and 15,000. Those are hard restrictions. Looks like we are speeding, so let's cut the throttles and slow the aircraft down. And we will aim for 250 because we have a 250 restriction too at cookies, max 250 knots, and then max 220 overhead the airport. So that's what we are gonna do. While we are here, let's pull the approach chart and program our course, and the frequency 110.7 is the ILS. Tune it, make it active. Is happening 110.7. Those are both active now. And we can set the final approach course 297 as you see here. Just a little bit more. Okay, everything is now set. We are descending nicely. And I think we are gonna make that restriction. We are currently from 9 to 1. And when we see 1 to 2 here, which is gonna happen very shortly, we need to take a look at the distance and make sure we have enough vertical speed to meet that restriction. It's always okay to use speed brakes. We have 9 miles to the first waypoint. It is always okay to slow the aircraft down to meet the restrictions and manage your speed, and that's what I'm trying to do by cutting the throttles. Alright, 8 miles, a little bit of way to go, and once we are there, if we meet the 16,000, we are gonna aim for 15 next until we reach 7,000 at the Cardiff NDB. Looking nice. Depends on how long the video is. We might also just continue and land the aircraft if that's something we need to do, just to keep the video length to around 25-30 minutes. But I am thinking about a second part to do that. Alright, I guess we are descending a little bit faster because we are at 17, so let's pitch the nose up and feed some throttle. So that will slow the descent and give us additional time. So we are going from 1 to 2, 11 miles, and we only need to descend 2,000, so that's 6 miles we need. I think we're good. I think we are fine. Keep the APR around 1.4 and keep descending. Right, let's reduce the descent rate just a little bit more to meet that restriction. We need a lot more time to get to the waypoint, so I'm gonna aim for like 500 feet per minute, maybe even less, because we have 1 minute to there. So, and we have 1,000 feet to descend, so I think keeping the speed low, maybe like that, and yep, 4 miles. We need to increase our rate of descent now just to meet that restriction. 3 miles, and I think we are gonna do it. Alright, that looks good to me. Just a little bit more. 16,300, 2 miles. I think that's perfectly matching with where we are, and we are gonna meet that restriction. We are at 16 and we are overhead, so we met that restriction. So now the next one is 15,000. We have 1.8 minutes and 10 miles, so we will reduce the descent rate to 1,000 feet because that's what we need to descend, maybe even less, just to make sure we don't reach that restriction. Alright, that's good for me. The aircraft should take care of the rest, slow the descent, and make sure we are gonna pass at 15. If not, we will zero out the descent rate and meet that restriction if necessary. So I guess this makes more sense to like see both in the same place. I'm gonna reduce my descent rate even more, and that should give us the 15,000 restriction, and we will meet that. After this we can keep descending down to 7,000 and eventually 2,200 for the approach. Right, this is working quite nicely. The speed is at 250, so I'm gonna feed some throttle to maintain 250 because that's a speed restriction we need to also keep in mind. And we are nearing 10,000, so it makes sense to slow the aircraft down to get ready to descend below 10,000. Okay, we are at 15,000, 2 miles to the waypoint. And that's pretty much it according to this. Now we are on the course to the second one, so we will descend even faster now, back to 1700 per minute. That's a little bit too much. That looks better. And we will cut the throttles just to get down to 250 knots now. It should slow us down. Perfect. So that's kind of how I am flying the approach, looking at the restrictions and making sure I am meeting those restrictions that we have. So just to keep it realistic, once we pass below 10,000, I think that's gonna be the end of this video, and we will discuss the approach and landing in the next part, which will be the last episode of the tutorial series. We're coming down to 10,000. The descent checklist is, we have done the descent and landing calculations. Auto brakes, let's just set our auto brakes to medium for landing. Nav radios are set, altitude selector and speed box. We haven't set the speed box for landing, so let's do this. We are landing to runway 30. We'll set the speeds. EPR, we're not gonna worry about that. That's done. HSI is set. Radio altitude we can set, I believe it's 200 for the approach on the radio altitude. Yep, 200 right there, so we will set that to 200 feet just to hear the call out for minimums. That is now done. Descent is ongoing and we are about to pass below 10,000, so let's cut the throttles even more, slow the aircraft down to 250. EPR is looking good. We can also like apply some speed brakes to get down to 250 knots. Okay, that's 250. We are at 10,000. All is good. We'll go ahead and turn on our passenger signs and we will turn on our landing lights. Alright guys, I hope this was informational and helpful. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you stumbled upon this video but not a channel subscriber, please consider subscribing and turning on the notifications to get notified for my future videos. Thanks for being here with me today, and I'll be seeing you in the next and last episode.